Just about every aspect of society has its rivalries. In computers, both philosophical and operational differences have made Apple and Microsoft each other's biggest competitors. In sports, you'd be hard-pressed to find a bigger rivalry with more animosity involved than the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox in Major League Baseball. Geopolitics is no different. Rivalries exist between nations based on political and philosophical differences as well, only the implications for these rivalries turning sour can be far worse. Perhaps no rivalry between different nations had greater implications for the entire world than that between the United States and the Soviet Union in the second half of the 20th century. Separated by vastly different political, economic, and social philosophies, tensions between the Soviet Union and the United States, a period historians term the Cold War, had the potential to lead to the end of the world as we know it. When World War II ended, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union had already decided what post-war Europe would look like. At various conferences, the most important of which were at Yalta and Potsdam, the three powers split Germany and its capital Berlin in two, with the eastern portion controlled by the Soviet Union and the western portion controlled jointly by the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. Additionally, the Soviet Union was given influence over the governments of several Eastern European states, where they promptly set up loyal, communist puppet regimes. These client states, though technically independent, were effectively part of the Soviet Union, sharing its communist economy and single-party political structure. The United States and the West feared the creation of this Eastern Bloc, as Western journalists and governments termed it, and the further spread of communism and/or totalitarian states in the rest of the world. U.S. foreign policy became one of containment, essentially stopping the spread of communism wherever it could. This was in direct opposition to the Soviet Union's policy of fostering the spread of communism, especially in its Asian neighbors. For example, Soviet agents had spent significant time with Mao Zedong's fledgling Communist Party in China in the 1930s and 1940s, where communism eventually prevailed and created the People's Republic of China in 1949. The tensions between the world's two biggest superpowers ratcheted up with the advent of nuclear weaponry. The United States had already obliterated 2 Japanese cities and hundreds of thousands of Japanese civilians with atomic bombs to end fighting in the Pacific Theater in World War II, and in the late 1940s and 1950s, both the United States and the Soviet Union pioneered even larger hydrogen bombs, capable of producing explosions thousands of times more powerful than atomic bombs. Furthermore, scientists theorize that if a large number of these missiles were launched simultaneously, the resultant radiation and explosions could lead to a global nuclear winter. Both nations eventually stockpiled thousands of these weapons over the following decades, and after the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, or ICBM, was invented, these nuclear warheads could be attached to missiles that could enter the stratosphere and detonate on the other side of the planet. These capabilities and the sheer number of weapons stockpiled by these two superpowers often place the fate of the world on a knife's edge. Though these two countries never fought an all-out war, they fought numerous proxy battles around the world. For example, the entire reason the United States got involved in Vietnam in the 1960s was to contain the spread of communism. Though the Soviet Union never sent troops to Vietnam, they funneled arms and weapons to the communist North Vietnamese